I mean, it requires a genuine commitment to get out of your own way, to do something
Yeah,
different, like we were
it
talking
does, and
about.
it also requires you to get out of the way of your corporate structure and your quarterly earnings and all these kind of things. And a lot of that stuff, I think, is going to change. I mean, I don't know if you followed Accor Hotels, which is not big in the US, but certainly big in Europe.
Sure.
And their CEO or president, CEO, I think, Sebastian Bazien,
Mhm.
is a guy that's been doing some real crazy stuff over the last couple of years. And he's one that is, I think, positioned to become that lifestyle brand. Their challenge is, I think, they've got too many sub brands, to your point about
Yeah.
dilution.
Yeah.
Um, but look, I think that is an opportunity for hotels to become that lifestyle brand, because I don't think there really is a hotel that's done it, or a hospitality brand even that's done it.
Yeah.
You know, we think of it in terms of, say, sports and apparel type brands, or even food brands, but not so much hotels. So I do think coming out of this, as they try and shake up the world a bit, because, you know, there's no travel for a while. This hotel in Bali is closed for the next 4 months. They just announced today, at least. So there's hotels all over the world that aren't going to be
And
alive.
you just
Out of
shared
this.
numbers with me for all your properties and what they generated, and like my jaw hit the table. It's
Yeah,
not even
listen,
a blip,
honestly,
right?
in the last 24 hours, in our 45 spas across 11 countries, we generated $200 because everything's closed. And I don't even want to know how that $200 came along. It might have been a manicure. It might have been, I don't know how the hell we did it. It might have just been retail. I haven't looked into it yet. But, you know, there's a lot of hotels going to be closed for a long, long time. And even after we travel again, do we need to travel? Like you said, why do
No,
we need to do that?
no. I mean, companies that are basically now streamlining and are more lean, because a lot of them were running very fat.
Yep.
Anybody who runs a company lean recognizes that in a heartbeat. Why would I send people to meet and on a plane ride and all this stuff when they've just basically operating for the last 2 months or 3 months using Zoom as efficiently as if they're in the same room? I mean,
Right.
you and I are having a conversation on one side of the planet to the other side of the planet, and we are doing it in real time. We're doing it with no lag. Okay,
Yep.
we're enjoying a drink together, right?
Yeah.
And nobody got on a plane. Nobody, we didn't have to somehow coordinate times, and it's like, here it is. It's as simple as that. And so why would a company spend money to do that?
And we haven't even gone down the 5G road yet. Imagine in a few years' time, once we go 5G and all this stuff is super seamless. So, yeah, you're right. I think, and look, these
Augmented
positive,
reality kicks in.
virtual reality, all that
Virtual
stuff
reality
comes into
kicks in.
play, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Um, so, look, I mean, I think the positive messages are great, and I understand people need the positive messages, and that's great. I'm personally always a glass half empty guy.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you hold up the glass in a spa environment and ask people, is it half full or half empty?
No, it's
And
always
people
half.
have,
Oh, it's always half full.
it's always half full,
Yeah.
and that's the positive approach, right? But I remember Bill Cosby said, God rest his soul, the dirty, disgusting human being that he became.
Yeah.
Um, but back when he was funny, he made a comment that when someone asked him the question, is it half full or half empty? He said, well, it depends on whether you're pouring or drinking, which is actually very true. It's all
Very
about
true.
your perception, right? But to me, it's always empty, because the half full bit, I can't do anything with. That's already done. I can't change that. It's already there.
Yeah.
The half empty bit
That's
is
the
where my
opportunity.
opportunity is.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
And so I think the opportunities are definitely coming out of this. I think people are saying, rah, rah, we're going to come through this. Everything will be okay. What's okay? I think our definition of what's okay is going to change as well.
Well, and when they say back to normal, is that really the
No.
normal we want, or is it the normal we even want to settle for? Because there is a time right now where we have the ability to, we start off saying, looking in the mirror and looking out the window. There's an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity right now where we are given the gift of being able to be still enough, if we have the courage to do that. Whereas in the past, we may have been running so fast in so many directions with so much pulling on us that we are not being able to do that. And so therefore somewhat forgiven for having missed it. But right now, I think if we really want to hold ourselves accountable, we have the quietness that in some cases we were selling, by the way, silence in spas. I mean, it got that bad, we were selling silence in
Sure.
spas, right? But we have the opportunity right now to be still enough, quiet enough, to really look out that window. Think outside the box. Look at the connections that we don't normally maybe see. To your point, the food truck, how does that relate to our industry? Well, what's that got to do with it? It's a greasy little thing with wheels. No. But look at it in comparison to the restaurant, and look at how that revolutionized that business, and it continues to be here, even though we just went through a whole period of immense growth in discretionary spending. The food trucks are not only still here, they are their own culture,
Yeah.
and own offering and own experience. Like in many cases, those are the ones that you are now renting instead of having a caterer come to your event. You're bringing in 1 or 2 food trucks and parking them in the parking lot and having a social gathering on a food truck. Or, you're having basically a tailgate party in your parking lot, right? So it is okay. I think it's important to be able to switch from that half full, half empty. And our industry, the spa industry, tends to be a very positive industry, like to the point of almost like positive to the point of denial, I think sometimes.
And that's where it's got to. And a lot of people that I've spoken to over this period have sort of had that everything's positive, rah, we'll get through it. And then there's other people that come to me and say, man, I just lost my job. I don't know what to do. And I want to say something, but I can't because I'll be negative. And I said, mate, that's okay to be negative. There's nothing wrong with being negative when you've just lost your goddamn job. I think that's okay.
Right.
And I think people need to be, and again, I said something about this the other day on a post. You need to be free to be able to bitch and moan about the situation right now. And to your point of being able to take some time in the future, and we're going to have time to sort of think about things. It's not just the time for me. We're going to be, in a funny way, we're going to be burden free, because the burden of keeping up with the Joneses is going to disappear by necessity because we can't.
Well, the Joneses aren't doing any better than us.
Well, those that are, we can't possibly hope to attain, because we're all striving. We've all got, mortgages and repayments and food bills and internet bills and stuff that we need for our daily life, our necessities.
Yeah.
But have a look at what's on the necessity list. In Malaysia, supermarkets are open, petrol stations are open, food delivery services are open, medical facilities are open. That's 4 essential services. That's it. Everything else is closed.
Health, food, and shelter. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, all the other stuff is just noise and layers. And
pretty much,
when I said about the Joneses are not doing any better than us, I'm not saying it that in a negative way. I'm saying is right now, what's fascinating about this coronavirus situation is it has actually unified and leveled the field across all socioeconomic levels. Like the guy down the street that has a Bentley in their garage and the guy down the street that has a Toyota in the garage, doesn't matter. They're both sequestered in their homes.
Correct.
And they're both worried about who's got toilet paper to last them the next week or paper towels, right? And I'm like, okay, stop using friggin' paper towels. Use a towel, wash it, reuse it, right? But yeah, no, it is if you get your head out of that space, and I will say this though, I have been very amazed. I don't know if I'm pleasantly surprised yet or not, but I was amazed by how quickly we responded to being sequestered for a week. Like it's only been a week here, or maybe let's say 2 weeks, right? This is our second week. It's amazing how adapted and adaptable the people have become.
Yeah.
It's got a lot to do with the technology that we have and the access and all the stuff like we're doing right here. But it is fascinating. It's fascinating. If you want to talk about an example of resiliency in the human being, what we are experiencing in terms of pivoting that is happening just in terms of survival and adjustability to living environment. I mean, yes, there will be ramifications. I mean, hell, the people are saying, there's going to be a lot of people basically, spending time at home and therefore getting intimate with one another. And we're going to have another baby boom called the coronials instead of the millennials now. Right?
Generation C, I think they're calling it now.
Generation C, right? But there's ask an attorney and he says there's going to probably be as many divorces as there are births because people are basically in each other's faces.
But then the flip side of that, people who were going to divorce, who all of a sudden realize, shit, life is different. Like it's not that important anymore.
Yeah, and the things I was concerned about, the things I put importance on, are not necessarily
right.
So I'm gonna let the cat. Yeah, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. Okay. Because these conversations that we're having, somebody would say, well, these should be in a book.
Yeah, well, there is a dirty little secret. We've all got a dirty little secret.
What's your dirty little secret, Trent?
Well, I did write a book, but it's called the Hotel Spa Manifesto, where it's actually a couple of years on now. That it's basically a summary of a lot of the stuff we've been talked about. How we need to reassess where we're at, asking questions, asking a lot of why. Now, unfortunately, right now it's not available for purchase because my company has decided it is not quite yet approved for publishing.
Right.
And there's various reasons for that. Look, I'm hoping out of this, I'll be able to convince them that there's value in this. This is not about me becoming a high-flying independent consultant or any of that rubbish, because I don't have interest in that.
Yeah.
The interest is in just getting people out there asking questions and thinking more. I'm part of a public company, so for their point of view, they need to be conservative about this approach, sure. I guess. But look, I'm hoping through this that we'll be able to get it out there and get it published, because I do think, I'm probably a little bit biased, but I do think that it helps people ask some questions and think about maybe what the future is. And in it, I talk about sort of the state of the nation, of the industry, where I think it is today, how we got here, an assessment of the various different phases and elements of hotels and spas, from the location to the offering, to the menu, to the spa associations, to the spa media, to the education. I basically give my 2 cents on all of those facets of the industry, and then try and suggest a few different business models moving forward. Because, to me, the hotel spa of tomorrow is 20% of what it is today. That's kind of my catch cry. To me, the 20% is the massage, manicure, pedicure, facial stuff that we know today. Mm-hmm. The other 80% could be completely different from what we know today in the spa. And it could be completely different from your hotel to the one down the road, mm-hmm. purely based on the different profiles of the guests and the different demographic of the guests. And people say, what's the 80%? Well, I don't know. It's going to be different for everybody. You need to see what your particular guest profile wants. To me, you do things like ask, what do I need when I'm staying in a hotel, and what could the spa offer me? Every morning I need to shower. Could the spa give me a shower? Could, but it probably wouldn't. I need to have a shave if I'm not growing this monstrosity. Could the spa help me do that? Yeah, they probably could. They could do a shave. I need to iron my shirt. Could the spa do that? Why not? While I'm down there, could I get my coffee and my donut and my croissant and my granola? Probably. Could I then also maybe get a foot rub or a neck and shoulder rub while you're ironing my shirt and doing my nails for my business meeting or something? Mm-hmm. They're the kind of ideas that I think that's what hotel spas, if we're going to call it that, I think that's what it needs to be, because what it is today just doesn't work in the vast majority of cases. It hasn't evolved enough. And then people will say to me, well, if it's 80% different, can we still call it a spa? Mm-hmm. To which I say, well, go back 25 years ago. We didn't call it anything.
Right.
Back in those days, I remember doing that business plan at that same hotel in Perth, where that same GM, God love him, he gave me the business plan from the previous year, said, just update that for this year, eh? Put the new numbers in. And I looked at it, I did the SWOT analysis, and our number one strength was our gym, because we had a gymnasium. Mm-hmm. Now, it wasn't even a gymnasium. It was one of those fairly crappy little universal multi-station things of 25 years ago that you might have in your home today.
Yeah.
But nobody else in the Perth market at that stage had it. Yet for us, that was a strength. And this was 93, 94, 92 maybe. Mm-hmm. And so just in that short time frame, we've gone from not even talking about spas to every hotel has to have a spa. And the conversations I have with GMs all the time, I need a spa. Can you help? I can help. Why do you want a spa? Well, because my guests want one. Really? Have you seen the numbers? Yeah, but no, just this morning I had a guest in the lobby complaining that my hotel doesn't have a spa and his wife is upset because she can't have a massage. That's one. Mm-hmm. Give me 40 of those guests every day for the next 30 days. Then we can talk about the demand. And to me, the offering that you've got in hotel spas today isn't resonating with your guests. So it doesn't mean we don't need a spa. A lot of hotels should have a spa. Right. But my argument is it needs to be dramatically different from what it is today.
Well, and let's be very clear. I mean, because a lot of people that are listening to this that are friends of ours and colleagues, peers, they're going to look at this and go, you guys, like, you're having this conversation that basically almost eliminates the industry, the definition of the business. And if you're really listening to what we're saying, we're not saying that. And I think Trent basically summed it up very nicely when he said that, the spa of tomorrow is 20% of what the spa of today is. What today's spa is, it's only going to be 20% of what the spa of tomorrow is. That is a challenge. That is a mission, if you will, that you are, your mission, should you choose to accept it, right? Yeah. So the mission, should you use to accept that industry, is not only, yes, say why. Like, why do you need a spa? And what you're really asking is, why do you need a spa by the definition of what you're defining the spa to be? And if you're telling me it's because you had one customer basically say, my wife wasn't happy that she couldn't get a massage and she had to go down the street, think about how much real estate of a certain value, even though it's internal, you are basically allocating to satisfy that one customer that basically maybe comes every 5 years once or something. Like, it doesn't pencil out on any level. And when it comes to hotel properties, even though it has changed dramatically since the early days, I think day spas, for example, live in a different reality check than hotel properties. Because somebody took a second mortgage on their house to basically do the expansion. They have to generate income. There has to be revenue optimization, et cetera, et cetera. But the other thing that's kind of interesting is not only to ask why, but like I said, like that gentleman basically shared with me in that meeting at Cal State Fullerton, ask yourself, why not? Like, when it comes to another idea, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a hemp bar in your lobby of your spa? Is there, why not? Because
why not put the spa in the lobby?
Right.
Why not?
Right.
I mean, it's the same question asked a different way. To me, the question is, why does the spa have to be on level 7 next to the gym and the pool?
Right.
I mean, there's some practical element to that, which is it makes sense if you're using water facilities and
double up on lockers, maybe, or what have you. I'll share something we've been tasked with recently, which is, again, sort of a challenge to the model. The request was from a multi-unit apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
That is a high rent apartment complex.
Yeah.
That doesn't want you to basically get off the property. It's almost the old hotel formula. I want you to eat here. I want you to sleep here. I want you to do whatever you need to do here. Never leave the property, like a resort destination. And so they wanted a spa element, and it was about 6,000 square feet. So that's a good size spa by anybody's count these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wanted a spa element, and they referred to it as a spa element. However, they wanted it to be very, very low on labor, almost self-serving, right? So we actually had to come up with a set of services that were physical in nature, that did not require a therapist and a esthetician, right? And we were able to come up with a matrix that worked for this particular person's expense. Now, I will tell you, anybody who's living in that complex, at the end of the day, with the services that we're talking about, everything from a Himalayan salt room to to sauna, steam. I even did a sage purification chamber in there. We did massage, the aqua massage tables.
Mm-hmm.
They literally are they going to like drop a coin in and basically just lay on the dang thing, right?
Yep.
There were zero gravity chairs that had like weighted blankets, things of that nature. Yep. None of which really required a high labor cost outlay by that operator. And that is why not? Like, it's that defies and there was retail.
Sure.
So you had a high margin component in this, you had a low labor cost component in this, and they were offering it as an add-on to the fact that they're charging so much high rent.
Yep.
Right. So again, it's a lifestyle brand, to your point. So what do you think? Are you hopeful? I mean, you've been at this thing long enough, and you're a glass half empty kind of guy. Are you
particularly now.
hopeful? Well, you know what? I can't get to my bottle, so I'm just going to live vicariously through you. Well, what do you? I mean, especially now, right? Like you just shared, and thank you for being very open. You shared that out of all your properties, 45 properties, you guys made $200 yesterday or today. That is gotta be scary as heck.
Well, and that's look, and that's why this first 14 days of lockdown, as we go into stage 2, but the first 14 days, I haven't had a chance to do a lot of the things that everyone else has been doing during the lockdown, because every day is a new crisis. You know, we were supposed to have this call originally yesterday, but something else came up, and another government announced another set of rules, and we had to follow them.
Yeah.
You know, somebody asked me back at the start of this thing 2 weeks ago. They sort of said, you know, what happens when this 2-week curfew is over? When everything opens up again, do we just go back to normal the way we were? Mm-hmm. Or are things going to actually really change? Are people going to get that things need to change? And back then I said, honestly, my view right now is that things will go back to the way they were, because I don't think that there's going to be a big enough shock for most people in a 2-week shutdown to be able to force them into a serious change of behavior, of thinking, of spending, of business, of everything else.
Okay.
Now, that was before the rest of the world started locking down. That was before the rest of the world basically went into overload. And that was before our 2-week lockdown became a 4-week lockdown and possibly a 6 to 8 week lockdown. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like now, I mean, look, there's a lot of businesses that won't come out of this, right? There's a lot of hotels that certainly won't come out of this.
Sadly, very true, yeah.
And so I do feel like at least the opportunity is going to be there for those people that do want to flirt with stupid. And I've got to give Ben Hollinsworth a shout out for that, because he's the one that threw that term at me, which is a great way to encapsulate the idea of it. You know, I think they are going to be more receptive to the conversations. I've got a Zoom call tomorrow morning with an architect doing a spa here in KL, who I've basically said to them, listen, what you're designing is obsolete today. Forget about tomorrow after the coronavirus thing kicks in. Mm-hmm. And so I'm throwing some of these ideas that we've talked about today and some of the ideas from my book at them, and they're saying, okay, well, let's see if we can rethink this. So am I hopeful? I'm hopeful that people will maybe be more receptive to new ideas. I am hopeful, I guess, at the risk of sounding totally cliche, I'm hopeful in the human spirit that it will prevail. To your point, we've managed to survive doing this.
Careful, you're almost starting to sound like an optimist. I mean, just careful.
Yeah, I like to call myself a practical optimist. But that's funny too. I actually did a post about that years ago. I consider myself a pragmatist, but who doesn't? I mean, have you ever met anyone who says I'm not a pragmatist? Yeah. Even the optimist says he's a pragmatist. Right. Look, I think it's honestly hard to say. What I do know is that the world is obviously going to be pretty different. Are there people that are going to come out of this? I was thinking today about who are our next heroes, who are our next celebrities, who are our next influencers. You know, is it going to be that district nurse who becomes the hero of the community? Are we going to start building statues to people like we did in the war days?
Yeah.
You know, of people who have really made a difference as opposed to football players and movie stars. Is there going to be a Hollywood Walk of Fame for, there's an idea. How about a Walk of Fame in your neighborhood? Shit, that's a brilliant idea. Hang on a minute. Let me do this again. How about a Walk of Fame for all of those people who were heroes during this thing, like the doctors, the nurses, the people that got us through it. You know, so I think a lot about that at the moment. I do think a lot of businesses will struggle. There's no doubt. A lot of business will need to rethink what they're doing. I think hotels desperately need to do it. We've all been living in a bubble, I think, for too long. And I just think we need to think about new practical ways of getting by and doing stuff and things that really matter. You know, for me, when I get out of lockdown, I'm lucky my wife is Thai and I just want to get back to Thailand and live on the farm for a year and take a year off. Back to that simple living, which I know some people are doing already, right? Some people are going off. If you're lucky enough to have a place to go that is in the countryside,
yeah, they're doing it.
Yeah.
I think I'm like you. I think, the truth is there's going to be a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Even if it's growing pain, there's going to be a lot
Yep.
of pain. When this thing, they announced the coast is clear and all clear sounds and everybody's back to kind of being outside of their house. I think there's a human component to fear and worry that is going to still play out for a while.
Yep.
I think in our case here in the United States, there's going to be the added complication of an election year and the
Yep.
summer and schools and gatherings in mass. And I think we already had helicopter parents. Now we're going to have even more of that. There's going to be ripple effects that are felt because of this way after the coast is clear or the sound is sounded.
Absolutely.
And to your point, it is a global phenomenon. It's not limited to any particular geography. So you almost have to, for your own survival, let alone thriving, you have to basically take that moral inventory. I think you need to look in the mirror. You need to look outside the window, and be willing to face what you see, because that's the other jarring thing. Like you said, this industry has been living in a bubble, and you and I both know that wholeheartedly.
And again, I want to stress that this is not unique to our industry.
No.
Because what I hear so much when I have this conversation is you don't understand. The spa industry is very different. The hotel industry is very different. Different to what? Different to the automotive industry. Different to. They're really not that different. Just like people aren't different. I mean, I remember when I first started working in Asia, when I first opened a resort in Thailand, which I've just heard actually is just closing after 20 years. People told me, you don't understand, the Thai people are very different. You have to understand. And then when I got to Bali, they said, oh, but the Balinese are very different from the Thai. You have to understand. You don't really understand. And then when I got to the Maldives, it was the same question. The Maldives people, they're very different, the Maldivians. But people are universally actually pretty much kind of all the same.
Yeah.
Of course, they're all different. And of course, me as a foreigner to that country, doesn't matter how long you live there, you're not of that country. You're not of that people. Right. So you never get it. You never really understand it. But people are still people. The basic things still matter to people. And I think that's what's coming out of all this thing. Whether you are in an affluent place or a non-affluent place, as you said earlier, it's not discriminating, this thing. We're all being brought back to a base level. Mm-hmm. And so we're about to find out how actually really alike we all are. And that's going to really shock the shit, frankly, out of a lot of the people up here. People aren't here aren't going to be disappointed.
I'll tell. Well, yes, because that's that the air is kind of thin, if you will, up here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we have an opportunity as an industry, and it's going to be challenging because it's not going to be rewarded in the same way that we have been accustomed to being rewarded. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I think we toyed with this idea a little bit a couple of years ago when we started talking about wellness for the first time. And we started talking about, I'm going to give a shout out to Belgian Aksoy from Global Wellness Day. Yes. Yep. And I will have her on the show. I've had her on the show before from Turkey, and I reached out to her today because I'm curious. But, this is a woman that set up a nonprofit, which is hell-bent on not being basically corporate monetized. Mm-hmm. And puts as much emphasis and importance on wellness for those who are not able to afford the price tag, as it is for people who are. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing. We could be very instrumental in taking this idea of wellness, grooming, health, preventiveness in terms of even pseudo medicine, if you will, mm-hmm. and really become leaders in our societies, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, where we champion this in a very universal way. You can't get universal health, but you can get universal wellness. Right. And the reward for that will have to be creative. Do you team up with, municipalities and provide this as a program that's different? Does it continue to be a luxury item-based pricing point, or does it become more of a, ingrained necessity in people's lives? Because again, preventiveness, health, wellness means less costs and impacts on the medical, on the medical infrastructure, what have you. And we do have an opportunity here, but we have to literally go back to the core of what it is that we do.
Yeah, we do. And I think the organizational face of wellness is something, I've got a few ebooks on my website as well that I've written over the years. And that was one that came out of a conversation with a real smart professor buddy of mine, where he said spas have the opportunity to be the organizational face of wellness. We have the opportunity to be the gateway, the entry point into that mysterious world
Completely
that right
agree.
now only Gwyneth Paltrow is kind of giving people a glimpse to, which is not necessarily helping a lot.
No, but it's fascinating, right? It's fascinating to watch her do that.
Sure.
Like, and for those who don't know, go find out what Gwyneth is doing, because it's fascinating that she's doing that.
No,
because even the way that they are visualizing her in doing that
Yep.
is a stripping away from the celebrity stardom kind of presentation package, right? She's more the way she's delivering the message, the way that she looks, the way the environment that she's in. It's like bringing it more down to a universal application. I am there. I'm one of you. I make this drink. I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? I mean, I get it, branding, and people. There's a lot of people that are very smart out there, but yes, and repeat that. What did he say exactly? The spa industry can have.
He said, and the guy's name is Professor Jerry Bodecker, who is the chair of the Mental Wellness Initiative on the Global Wellness Initiative list. He is a bunch. I mean, I can't even talk about all his credentials, but it was a dinner conversation we had years ago at his place. He actually lives here in KL, and he said, just over dinner, spas have the opportunity to be the organizational face of wellness. And then we continued eating, and for the next 3 weeks, this thing just got into my head. And I asked him later what he really meant about that. You're writing it down?
Mm-hmm.
On the trentmunday.com, there's an ebook called Organizational Face of Wellness. Look at me promoting myself.
No.
And it talks about that. It talks about how spas have this opportunity. And I liken it to, when you go into a sports medicine clinic, or when you go into probably any hospital for that matter, you go and see the generalist first, and then they point you towards a specialist.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of happening potentially with spas. That's one road that we could go down. We could be that face that people who don't understand the crazy Chinese medicine man or that crazy chakra balancing stuff or whatever it is, can at least find out a little bit more and decide whether that's the right thing for them. So it's certainly one way that hotels can go. I'm not saying that all hotels should go there, or even most, but it is an opportunity.
But I could almost also say that I'm not going to almost say, I'm going to say it. It doesn't have to be housed in that box. It can be housed in a box that hasn't even been really configured yet. In fact, it may not even have 4 walls, to be honest, right? I mean, it could be a mobile component. The thing that's interesting about that particular, like what you were saying, in how it could play a role. If you think back to the days, especially of European spas,
mm-hmm.
and sanitariums for tuberculosis and things of that nature, that exact combination of hospitable and hospitality and care and actually this wellness element was
mm-hmm.
there. It's not like it's like I said, we're going back to that core essence of the industry that has now become layered with features versus benefits and outcomes.
Yeah, you're right.
And go ahead and self-promote one more time. By all means. I'm out of drinks, so might as well. What was the website again, Trent?
The website is just me.com. TrentMunday.com is the website. There's pretty much all my content ends up there. So everything that I've done over the last 3 years or so is up there, whether it's in ebook format. The video plugin is now not working, so that all lives over on YouTube. But pretty much all the podcast is there. All the content lives on the website in one shape or another. And that's the best place. I publish most things on LinkedIn. That's sort of where I live in my space, as you know. Yeah. And the other shout out, let me give a shout out to 2 other bits of useful information, I think. One thing is the Blue Ocean strategy you talked about, which I think is a massive book. I mean, I always used to think about this. It just means, the world is, I sort of took blue ocean to mean blue sky. There's unlimited potential. Mm-hmm. When in fact, as you said, it's red ocean, blue ocean stuff, which means we've got to go and compete in a space that is not yet discovered almost.
Right, and you have to let go of the safety of the known thing and chart uncharted waters.
And everybody right now is in a red ocean. We're all trying to eat each other's fish. We're all trying to eat each other's bait.
Yep.
And so that book is great because it gives you some real practical strategies.
Yep.
The other book I'm going to recommend too is a book called Brave New Work. And there's a guy called Aaron Dignan who wrote the book, Dignan. I'm sure we'll put links to this later on down below. I'll send you some links. Okay. But it's basically about how organizational structures that we operate in today were built basically for an industrial revolution or a post-industrial revolution world. They weren't really built for the world we live in today. The organizational structure, the organizational hierarchy didn't exist prior to that time. And he does a really good job of breaking down how organizational's operating system, if you like, he calls it the operating system of your organization, needs to change and needs to be flexible and needs to adapt and maybe blown up from what it is today.
So you could almost say that we are now elevating the organizational structure over,
at the moment we are, yes,
right, over what it is that the organizational structure should be doing, which is supporting what is really the core reason of the business.
Absolutely. And he's got some great examples of different visualizations of that. So it's a really good book to check out. If anyone's on lockdown and looking for some quiet time, you've got 850 episodes of me if you want to get into that. But checking out these two books would definitely help you navigate the tomorrow, I think.
Okay, buddy. I know we ran really long on this, but I think it's a super important conversation. And anybody who's listening to this, sorry for allowing us. Thank you for allowing us, I should say, to bend your ear a little bit longer than usual. But that's what happens at the After Hours Raad Life. So, and if anybody has any input, feedback, I mean, for sure, if you're not following Trent on LinkedIn right now, you should be. If you're in the hospitality industry or in the spa industry, you should be. Even if you're not in those industries, to be honest with you, because I think a lot of the stuff that he points out is applicable across multiple industries. And it's very short and sweet and succinct, and it's more thought-provoking than, do's and don'ts. So I enjoy it always. And like you said, there's a good amount of content, so you can binge to your heart's content on it. There's a couple of books that we just gave, Blue Ocean, Red Ocean, and what was the other one?
Brave New Work.
Brave New Work. Those are a couple of books. I really want to hear from people, especially people that we basically know. You guys all know both of us, and we really should be having this conversation. So with that being said, I'm going to lean on my friend here, and I'm going to say that we will announce for another upcoming Raad Life After Hours. I know it's going to be late, but you guys have nothing better to do right now. So come join us. Bring your own booze, though we're not providing an open bar here.
Right.
And maybe we can have this conversation expand, because why? Ask why. And
why not?
Also, why not? Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
All right.
Keep doing what you're doing. I really, really mean it. When I say disruptor, I couldn't use a nicer word to describe anybody. So you keep doing that. Don't shave this.
It's going to have to go at some time, but I've got 14 more days to go. It's driving me mad, I tell you.
Well, it's like a burr under your saddle, right?
It is. It's definitely
so
that.
It serves a purpose.
Correct.
So I will wish you a good day, and everybody, thank you very much for letting us indulge here. We will see you at another time.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for the show.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.